In today's video, I'm going to talk about the 10 most common relationship mistakes. So stay tuned. Hey everyone, it's Stephanie Redmond here, and I'm a certified professional life and relationship coach. If you're new here, please make sure to like and subscribe so you don't miss any of my new content. Also, I want to send out a big thank you to the current subscribers. I really appreciate you guys. All right, so let's dive in. I just want to say that many of the mistakes that I'm about to cover are mistakes that I've made and I've had to learn from. So don't feel bad because many of us have to learn along the way. We're not just born knowing these things. So the first relationship mistake is not building a relationship with yourself. Many people go into a relationship with hopes that they are going to find themselves when they get with their soulmate. And unfortunately, that's not the way it works. I hate to break it to you, but your relationship with someone else is only gonna be as good as the relationship with your own self. One of the biggest things that people have to work on is to become a little bit more secure and more confident in themselves, because insecurity is one of the biggest killers of relationships. The truth is, you can't love and care for someone else if you don't even know how to take care of your own self. I tell my clients that first you have to learn how to be dependent, then independent, and the top level is to be interdependent. When you're in a relationship, you want to be able to have something to contribute so that you can both bring each other up and balance out a relationship. Mistake number 2 is thinking that you can change the other person. I know a lot of girls go into a relationship thinking, oh, I can change him. I used to feel that way, and I used to think that, oh, I can change the other guy. Oh, he's a cheater, but don't worry, I can change him. You can't change anybody. And any changes you think that they might be making, if they don't want to do it from within their own self, the change is not going to be permanent or real. So when you really think about going into a relationship with someone, you need to go into it with an accepting mindset, and you have to really want to be with that person for who that person is. If you're a guy and you're dating a girl and you don't like the way that she dresses, or maybe she doesn't wear makeup, you can't necessarily change that. You shouldn't necessarily be going into a relationship with someone if you don't just like who they are up front. It's not really fair to them, and it's not fair to you because your expectations are never going to be met. The third mistake is expecting the other person to fix your problems. If you go into a relationship and you have an anxiety problem, or you have an insecurity or confidence problem, going into a relationship is not going to fix that. In the beginning, because you have a rush of different hormones and emotions, it might seem to take care of the problem for a little while, but once that honeymoon phase wears off, your problems are really gonna start to arise, and you might actually start subconsciously having complaints about your partner because they're no longer making you feel a certain way. When in reality, the best way to go into a relationship is once you kind of already know who you are and you really know how to sort out your inner issues. The fourth mistake is not communicating. Either not communicating at all or not communicating effectively. I see so many relationships where the person starts to get upset or stressed out when they've never communicated to their partner how they really feel. You can't go into a relationship expecting your partner to read your mind. Although they can get close to it if they know you well enough and they're very assertive to your needs. I mean, sometimes you might get really blessed and you might go into a relationship with someone that's really assertive and they can kind of guesstimate what it is that they think they should be doing, but it's not really fair to them. If you don't like the way that someone is doing something or not doing something, there is a right way to communicate with that person. A few things to remember here when communicating. Never accuse your partner by saying you never or you always. The best way to address a situation is by saying, when you do this or that, it makes me feel like this or that. Another tip for communicating is using the positive sandwich. This is where you say something really nice about them that's truthful, that you like about them, then what your concern is, and then you follow up with another compliment or positive thing about that other person. So an example of a positive sandwich would be, sweetheart, I really love when we spend time together. I think you're such an awesome person. but it really brings me down when I don't get to see you that often. So I would really, really love it if I got to spend a little bit more time with you on a regular basis. I think we would have a great time together, and I really can't get enough of your great jokes. That's just an example, but you get the gist. Positive, concern, positive. Positive sandwich. Mistake number 5 is not being a good listener. Part of communication is listening. Most people that I know listen in order to respond. They're listening to what is being said so that they can come up with a way to respond, either in a way to defend themselves or to come off as witty or whatever the case may be. A better way to consider listening is to listen to try to understand the other person. I promise you that listening to understand will go a long way. Sometimes half the problem comes from the other person not feeling heard. If you really take the time to understand the other person, you might be really surprised to what it is that you find out. I mean, think about it. How different would this world be if people were actually trying to understand you? You feel like it would be a little bit easier to put your guard down. So next time, try to give your partner the courtesy of trying to listen to understand them, to try to see where they're coming from or why they're saying what they're saying. The 6th mistake is operating from a place of fear rather than a place of love. What I mean is being in a state of mind of fear. I used to constantly fear that my then boyfriend, now husband, would always be looking for a reason to leave me, or fear that he was losing interest in me. Now, all of this was in my head because he gave me no evidence that he was thinking these things. It came from my own inner state of mind. I was coming from a place of fear rather than a place of love. So when I shifted this belief and I started looking at him and our relationship from a place of love, it started off with loving myself and knowing my own worth and my own value, and realizing that if he wants to leave, that's all right, because I want him to be happy, and at the end of the day, I don't want to be with him if he doesn't want to be with me. There's no point in that. So it's more of a loving approach. There's no fear attached to that. This tip will make you feel naturally more confident in yourself, which is going to improve the overall quality of your relationship. The 7th mistake is giving too much of yourself too fast. I see this happen a lot in new relationships, and I used to do this too when I first started dating. Sometimes we go into a courting situation or a dating situation and we feel like we want to show this person all of the love that we have to give. And unfortunately, this may not be the best path to take because it does one of 2 things. Number 1, it will either make this person too used to you spoiling them with your love and affection and attention, and they will take you for granted. Or the second thing is it might scare that person away. As humans, we're attracted to a little bit of mystery, and there's always going to be someone that's chasing, and there's always going to be another person that's chased. There's no way around it. There's always going to be one party that is doing one or the other. So the moment that the chaser stops chasing, the chasee ends up chasing the chaser. So if you feel like your partner is pulling away, my biggest advice is to pull back. Sometimes just a little bit. You have to think of a relationship as a give and a take. I'm not saying that you're going into a relationship to look for something to take. You should be going into a relationship to see what you can give. But what I'm saying is you can give a little bit of your love and attention and see how the other person responds. If they respond favorably, then you give them more. If they don't respond favorably, then you pull back a little bit. It's a give and a take. You have to be gauging yourself and the other person, especially in the beginning of a relationship. The dynamics can be very delicate. Mistake number 8 is being too needy. Nobody likes to be told that you're being needy or you're being annoying or I need space. Those words can feel like getting shot in the heart with a harpoon. It does not feel good. Most of the time, being needy comes from a sense of insecurity in yourself. So the biggest thing that I can say here is to go back to mistake number 1 and to really try to rebuild your relationship with yourself. A lot of people lose a little bit of themselves, if not all of themselves, when they get into a new relationship. It's really important to still keep some sense of your identity separate from your relationship. Being needy can be really unattractive to the other person, and so the best way to adjust yourself when you're feeling like you're being needy is to try to give a little bit of space. Let that person reach out to you. Sometimes it might be tough because you may want to hear from them, you know, every hour or every day. But I say wait 3 days, wait a week until that person reaches out to you. You don't always want to be the person reaching out. You also want to give the other person a chance to miss you. If you're making yourself too available, they are not going to realize what they're missing out on. You want to give that person a little bit of what you have to offer, then give them some space, let them kind of process it and then remember it and miss it. And then you not constantly being there will motivate them to come and seek out more of your awesomeness. All right, so mistake number 9 is not respecting your partner. This is something I see way too often, and I'll be honest, I was guilty of this, but this is such a big mistake. Respect is one of the most important things in a relationship. And I see it way too many times where one of the partners is disrespecting the other partner, where the other partner is belittling the other partner, talking down to them, embarrassing them in front of others. The foundation of a loving relationship is trust and respect. And if you want to be respected, you need to respect the other partner. Sometimes we get frustrated and we don't realize that we're disrespecting the other person, but this might be a wake-up call, and maybe you can take a step back and see if there's anything that you can do to improve the quality of your relationship. All right, and mistake number 10 is not teaching your partner how to treat you. What do I mean by this? Well, I mean rewarding the positive behavior and not rewarding the negative behavior. So, for example, if your spouse cooks you a really delicious dinner and you really love it when they cook for you, make sure to really compliment and make them feel really special about making that meal for you. Or if you want your spouse to take the weekend off work to be able to spend time with you and they do that, make sure to make them feel super special and really appreciated for doing those things. When people feel appreciated, it's one of the biggest motivating factors. So what do I mean by not rewarding the negative? Well, an example would be if your spouse is talking to you in a very disrespectful tone or is yelling at you. A good way to respond would be to use a positive sandwich approach, but to say something along the lines of, you know, I really love you or I really care about you, but I don't feel like the tone that you're using right now is the healthiest for our relationship, and I would love to talk to you when you're calm and from a loving approach. I think that's the best way we can solve problems. This kind of resets your partner and shows them that they're the ones that are not necessarily acting correctly. All right, so those are my top 10 relationship mistakes that I see most people making and that I've made myself. I really hope that this provided some insight. I hope that it provided some advice that might help your relationship out in the future. Let me know what you think. Are these mistakes accurate, or are there certain mistakes that you've noticed that are not on this list? Let me know in the comments down below. And please make sure to like and subscribe if you haven't already. It really helps me out. All right, guys, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.